Today we will discuss the book The Distracted Mind, Ancient Brains in a High-Tech World by Adam Gazzaley and Larry D. Rosen. We will cover 4 key topics: the conflict, the evolutionary brain versus modern technology; types of interference, identifying distractions and interruptions; technological impacts, how modern tools affect the brain; and the prescription, strategies to protect and strengthen your mind. Imagine a hunter living 40,000 years ago. He wakes up in the morning, scans the forest, looks for food, watches for predators, and communicates with his tribe. His brain is constantly solving problems that are immediate and physical. Where is food? Is there danger nearby? Who can I trust? Now imagine that same brain suddenly transported into the modern world. Instead of trees and animals, it sees phones, notifications, emails, social media feeds, news alerts, and endless information. The brain that once needed to focus on one important task at a time is now surrounded by hundreds of competing signals every minute. This is the central idea behind the distracted mind. The authors argue that our brains are ancient, but our technology is extremely new. The brain evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, while smartphones and social media appeared only in the last few decades. Because of this mismatch, our minds are constantly being pulled in different directions, leading to distraction, mental fatigue, and difficulty focusing. Understanding this conflict is the first step to solving it. 1. The conflict: evolutionary brain versus modern technology. Our brain was designed for survival, not notifications. The human brain evolved in environments that were very different from today's world. Early humans lived in small groups and had to pay attention to things that were directly related to survival. For example, finding food, detecting danger, remembering locations, maintaining social relationships. The brain developed systems that helped us focus on important goals and ignore irrelevant information. But there was one problem. The brain also evolved to react strongly to new and surprising stimuli. If something unexpected happened in the environment, it could mean danger. Therefore, our brains became very sensitive to interruptions. This trait was useful in ancient environments. If a hunter heard a sudden noise in the bushes, it might mean a predator. His brain needed to immediately shift attention toward that sound. However, in the modern world, that same system is triggered by phone notifications, emails, advertisements, and social media alerts. Your brain reacts to these signals as if they are important events, even when they are not. This is why a simple phone notification can completely break your concentration. Cognitive limits: the brain cannot handle everything. Another important idea in the book is that the brain has limited cognitive capacity. This means the brain can only process a certain amount of information at one time. Think of attention like a mental spotlight. You can point it toward one task, but you cannot shine it everywhere at once. For example, if you are reading a book and someone starts talking to you, you cannot fully process both at the same time. One of them will receive less attention. Modern technology constantly pushes our brains beyond these limits. At any moment, we might be checking messages, reading news, scrolling social media, watching videos, replying to emails. All these activities compete for the same limited mental resources. The result is mental overload. The interference model: why goals get disrupted. The authors describe something called goal interference. When you start a task, your brain forms a goal. For example, I will study for the next hour. But when a notification appears or a thought pops into your mind, a new competing goal is created. Now your brain must decide between continuing the current task or responding to the new stimulus. Often the brain chooses the new stimulus because novelty triggers dopamine, a chemical linked to curiosity and reward. This is why checking your phone feels so tempting even when you know you should stay focused. Technology constantly creates new competing goals, which interfere with the goals you originally intended to pursue. 2. Types of interference. The book explains that distraction usually comes from 3 main sources. Understanding these helps us recognize why focusing is difficult. External distractions. External distractions come from the environment around us. Examples include phone notifications, incoming messages, emails, social media alerts, people talking nearby, background noise. These signals capture our attention automatically. Our brains are wired to detect sudden changes in the environment. Even if we try to ignore them, they often break our concentration. A single notification may seem harmless, but its effects are larger than we realize. When you stop working to check your phone, your brain must shift attention away from the current task. After the interruption ends, it takes time to rebuild the mental context of the original task. Research shows that it can take several minutes to fully regain focus after an interruption. This means that frequent notifications can significantly reduce productivity. Internal distractions. Not all distractions come from outside. Sometimes the biggest distractions come from our own minds. Internal distractions include random thoughts, worries, daydreaming, emotional concerns, remembering unfinished tasks. For example, you may be studying but suddenly think, I forgot to reply to that message, or what should I do tomorrow? These thoughts pull attention away from the current activity. The human mind naturally wanders. In fact, studies suggest that people spend a large portion of their time thinking about something else than what they are currently doing. While mind wandering can sometimes lead to creativity, it often disrupts focus when we are trying to complete important tasks. Sensory overload. Modern environments expose us to an enormous amount of information. Screens display images, videos, text, and advertisements simultaneously. Social media platforms constantly update with new content. Our brains were not designed to process this high volume of information. When too many stimuli compete for attention, the brain experiences sensory overload. This leads to mental fatigue, reduced concentration, and difficulty making decisions. In other words, the brain becomes overwhelmed. 3. Technological impacts on the brain. Technology does more than distract us. It also changes how we think and work. Information overload. One major challenge of the digital age is information overload. In the past, people had limited access to information. Knowledge came mainly from books, teachers, and direct experience. Today, the internet provides unlimited information instantly. While this seems beneficial, it creates a new problem. The brain must constantly decide what information is important, what information should be ignored. This decision-making process consumes mental energy. When too much information arrives too quickly, the brain struggles to organize and store it effectively. As a result, people may feel mentally exhausted even after doing tasks that seem simple. The multitasking myth. Many people believe multitasking increases productivity. However, neuroscience shows that true multitasking is extremely rare. Most of the time, the brain cannot perform two complex tasks simultaneously. Instead, it rapidly switches between tasks. For example, when someone claims to be multitasking by studying while checking messages, the brain is actually alternating between reading the study material and responding to messages. Each switch requires the brain to stop one activity and activate another. This process reduces efficiency. Many people feel busy all day but accomplish very little because their attention is constantly fragmented. Task switching costs. Every time the brain switches tasks, it pays a mental cost. These costs include slower thinking, increased mistakes, reduced memory performance, and higher mental fatigue. Even small interruptions can produce these effects. Imagine trying to write an essay while constantly checking notifications. Each time you look at your phone, your brain must rebuild the context of the writing task. This repeated switching dramatically reduces productivity. Many people feel busy all day but accomplish very little because their attention is constantly fragmented. 4. The prescription: how to protect your mind. The final part of the book focuses on solutions. The goal is not to eliminate technology, but to use it in ways that protect our cognitive abilities. Strengthening executive function. Executive functions are mental processes that control attention, decision-making, and self-regulation. They act like the brain's control center, helping us stay focused on goals. These abilities can be strengthened through practice. Activities that improve executive function include mindfulness meditation, problem-solving exercises, focused learning, and physical exercise. Training the brain to maintain attention can gradually improve concentration. Changing behavior. Another solution is to change how we interact with technology. Small behavioral adjustments can significantly reduce distraction. For example, turning off unnecessary notifications, scheduling specific times to check messages, avoiding multitasking during important work, setting clear boundaries between work and leisure. By controlling when and how we engage with technology, we reduce its ability to interrupt us. Designing better environments. Our surroundings strongly influence our behavior. If distracting devices are always within reach, resisting them becomes difficult. Therefore, the environment should be designed to support focus. Examples include keeping phones away while studying, working in quiet spaces, organizing digital tools to reduce clutter, spending time in nature to restore mental energy. A well-designed environment makes it easier to maintain attention and reduces the need for constant self-control. Conclusion: the real problem is not you. Many people blame themselves for being distracted. They believe they lack discipline or willpower. But the core message of the distracted mind is different. Distraction is not simply a personal weakness. It is the result of a fundamental mismatch between our ancient brains and our modern technological environment. Our brains evolved for a world with limited stimuli and clear survival goals. Today's digital environment bombards us with constant signals competing for attention. Understanding this conflict helps us approach the problem more intelligently. Instead of blaming ourselves, we can design better habits, control technology use, strengthen mental focus, and create environments that support attention. By doing so, we can regain control of our most valuable cognitive resource, our attention.